Good evening, everyone. Welcome to East English Village. We'd like to thank Bethany Christian Church for hosting this evening. And without further ado, we'd like to talk about our events today. Does everyone have a pamphlet? Okay. You have two pieces, actually. One is a neighborhood of choice information about East English Village, and the other is our welcome guide that comes out of every couple of years for standards and history of the neighborhood. Last year we celebrated 100 years of neighborhood. So we're obviously 101 this year. And we've got some very exciting news, but we also continue the mission of bringing people in and retaining great residents. Today I have the pleasure of working with Mayor Duggan and his incredible team in the Land Bank. For the people who don't have a lot of history on Land Bank, we started about 4 years ago. Last year we put in about $2.8 million in the total for the neighborhood. We renovated 14 houses top to bottom. They were better than new when we did that. And we brought 14 new families into the neighborhood, which was outstanding. Over the course of 3 home tours, we had scores of people wanting to buy the Land Bank houses. And we had to really go through sort of systematically what we could do with them. So we waited. And we've had this pent-up demand for our houses in the neighborhood. 6 years ago, we hit about $270,000 on Kensington for a 4-bedroom colonial. At the low, we've hit $10,000 now. But we're continuing to sell houses at larger dollar amounts. We just had a house on Bishop sell for close to $70,000 that was sort of a nice Cox and Baker bungalow, but nothing really updated. So we're seeing other things happen, which is very, very positive. The Land Bank this year, with the changes and the change really of taking the Land Bank and moving it into the city of Detroit, we didn't have about 20 more houses. We have close to, 50,000 in total? So the number grew. But we have an opportunity here tonight to really talk about the next phase for East English Village. We go from Cadju to Outer Drive Mac to Harper. We have about 80 people on our board, and we continue to grow as a neighborhood. But more importantly, a strong neighborhood that continues to work with new challenges, but also really grow. So today, Mayor Duggan and the team from downtown, as well as the Land Bank, had a news conference. And so we're very excited about the news that Mayor Duggan is going to take us through. But I just want to make sure we welcome everybody tonight. How many people from East English Village here tonight? How many from Cornerstone? Morningside. Great. So how many from Yorkshire Woods? How many people from Dare? Okay. Creekside? Jefferson East. Great. We're all in this together. We just need to get more people in. So with that said, Mayor Duggan. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Sorry about that. You cut Alexis out. How's everybody doing tonight? Good. As we continue to try things to get the city going the right way, what I've been doing is going out neighborhood by neighborhood, and as there are developments, talk to you about what you're going to be seeing. And I've done it in the areas where we did the public lighting, done it now in the areas where we started to sue on abandoned houses in Marygrove, and now I wanted to talk to you here today about what we've done in East English Village, what we're going to start to do with the auction. The East English Village Neighborhood Association has been extremely strong for a number of years, and Bill Ballridge has been an enormous help, but we've got a number of other groups that are strong as well. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing in our strategy. I'll see if I can stand. We never, for some reason, can seem to get the screen close enough. So I'm going to try talking from here. Am I blocking anybody? Can you see over there? All right, so let me tell you what we're doing. For 30 years in Detroit, we've had one strategy for dealing with blight. And you all know what it is, right? It's demolition. It's all we've ever done. Today we're starting off a new strategy. And I talked about this repeatedly during the campaign. I remember when Mayor Coleman Young announced that he was going to knock down 10,000 homes and solve the blight problem in the city of Detroit. And then I remember when Dennis Archer announced he was going to knock down 10,000 homes and solve the blight problem, right? And then I remember when Mayor Kilpatrick said he was going to knock down 10,000 homes and solve the blight problem. And the day Dave Bing announced he was going to knock down 10,000 homes was the day I said, Lord, I got to run for mayor. Okay? I've been listening to this way too long. And you know, you don't have to go too many blocks one direction or another, and it's very different. The folks in East English Village have very little in the way of a demolition issue, but you get 6 blocks one way or another, and we've got serious issues. And the demolition strategy has never worked in this city for one reason. Everybody who's in town knows it. There'll be 3 abandoned houses on a block. The demo crew will come down the block. They will have paperwork on one house, right? They'll knock down the house. Usually it's not the worst house on the block, right? They'll leave. They'll come back 6 months later. They'll have paperwork on one house. In the meantime, what's happened? 2 more families have left the neighborhood. We've gone from 1.8 million to 700,000 people in this city, with people just walking away from their homes. And the reason is we don't attack the whole neighborhood at once. If you don't address all of the abandoned houses at one time, people are going to leave. And in so many cases, these abandoned houses are structurally sound. They'd be palaces in other parts of the world. It's not that the house isn't good, it's that people don't believe in the future of the neighborhood. And so what are we going to do? So when I was the prosecutor, I was suing on these abandoned houses. And I was taking neighborhoods that were in good shape, maybe had 1, 2 abandoned houses on a block. I never thought I'd see the day when East English Village had a whole bunch of abandoned houses. 10 years ago, that was inconceivable to me. This Marygrove neighborhood that we sued on 10 years ago, unbelievable that you could see it as far gone as it is now. And so we're coming back in partnership with the neighborhoods, starting with our strongest neighborhoods first and working out. So here's the strategy. We're going to save every house that we can, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do it. We're going to auction houses to buyers who want them, to sell them, to move families in who want to be there. We're going to partner with the community groups, and we're going to talk tonight about the first auctions in East English Village and what we want to do with you. When I was the prosecutor and I was selling these houses, it was the local churches, it was the local neighbors who were generating the buyers, people calling up saying, come on into our neighborhood, that were most successful. We're starting to get partnerships with banks who are more ready to loan. They're a lot more ready to loan if they know every house in the block is going to be dealt with than if you're asking them to come loan to me and they come down, they look and they see 2 other abandoned houses on the block. They don't want to touch that block, right? And so we're getting the banks to come in, and then those that we can't save, we're going to demolish quickly. When I got here, it took 36 steps to demolish a house in the city of Detroit. In fact, they were proud of it. You go on the Building Safety Engineering website, and they would brag about the fact they get through 36 steps. Okay, well, we all know how many years it takes to get a house down, so we've sped that up. So the other thing we are doing is this. We've established a new Department of Neighborhoods so that there be somebody in your neighborhood that would fight blight, that it wouldn't be downtown at City Hall. And so in each district, we have a district manager and an assistant district manager, somebody from the neighborhood. The district manager here, many of you know, is Odell Tate. Odell, stand up. All right? So Odell was the head of the Morningside Association for many years. I want somebody who understands from the perspective of the neighborhoods. And the assistant district manager, Tucson Knight. Tucson, raise your hand. Okay. They're in the Warren Connor office over on Connor. They are not a neighborhood city hall. Their job is to fight blight. If you got a problem with your tax returns, you don't call them. You need a birth certificate, you don't call them. Their job is to partner with you to fight blight. if it's an abandoned house issue, if it's illegal dumping, overgrown lots, code enforcement, squatters, scrappers, they are going to be connected with the neighborhood groups. That's going to be their job, and hopefully you're going to continue to see more of them. So, we're going back to what I did when I was in the prosecutor's office. And when I looked at why we were only taking one abandoned house when there were 3 on the block, the reason was that the city has historically gone after you basically when the house goes for back taxes. That's when the city takes it over and eventually gets around to knocking it down. Well, under the tax laws of this state, it takes nearly 3 years before you can take a house for back taxes. What happens to an abandoned house in this city in 3 years, right? We all know. Furnace is stolen, water heater stolen, they pull the aluminum siding off the outside. We've seen it over and over. And so my thing was, you can't wait 3 years. And so I said, let's try something different. Let's forget about the back taxes. Nuisance law says that you cannot maintain your property in a way that's a nuisance to your neighbor. And so I started suing the owners of abandoned houses, saying your abandoned house is a nuisance. You have 2 choices. You can sign a court order to get it fixed up and occupied in 6 months, or you can deed it to us and we'll sell it on the internet like eBay. They took me through the appellate courts because we would go through and we would file suit on every house in the neighborhood the same day. We brought the whole neighborhood back more than 1,000 times. We got the house renovated, fixed up, occupied. A family moved in. It worked. The slumlords appealed me over and over. We won the case. You couldn't find a court in this state that said to people maintaining abandoned houses, you don't have to either fix it up or get rid of it. One or the other. Either one's fine. And as I was leaving the prosecutor's office, the Harvard School of Government called this one of the most innovative programs in America. That program fell by the wayside in county government. And this week, we're bringing it back. And we're bringing it back. There's one happy person. You can clap. All right? So, these are from when I was a prosecutor. It's a house that I sued on. Looks like it's worthless, right? Abandoned, you got to knock it down. And that's what it would look like after it was bought and fixed up, right? This house was actually operating as a drug house, as an abandoned house. And that's what it ended up after I sold it and got it fixed up. We know this works. So, how do we restart it? We have put everything in one agency, a city land bank. When I got here, I found that we had dealing with blight in this city, and Bill can talk about this because I think he's dealt with all of them, the federal government, HUD, state government, the Housing Authority, MISHTA. You have city government, the Building Safety and Engineering Department. You had the Blight Task Force, you had the Blight Authority, you had a land czar, you had a state land bank, you had a county land bank, you had a city land bank. 9 different agencies. Bill, were you dealing with all 9? Pretty much, right? 9 different agencies who were in charge of dealing with abandoned houses. Every one of them good people, every one of them with good ideas, going 9 different directions. It took me about 60 days, but I was very fortunate that the Detroit City Council has been a complete partner on this. And we collapsed those 9 agencies down to one entity, the Detroit Land Bank. All abandoned houses are coming into it. And so now we put it together. The first thing we did was this week we started suing owners of abandoned houses in the Marygrove area, going back to that program. And we're selling those that can be done at auction. And do we have members of the land bank here? All right, go ahead and stand up and introduce yourselves. Okay. So Larry's one of the state appointees on the land bank that are working together. These are volunteers. They aren't being paid. They come out and they've been putting in huge numbers of hours to deal with this. And so today, we started the second piece. We started the auctions and we opened up a website. And it's called buildingdetroit.org. So it went live at noon today, and that's the way it looks. says neighbors wanted. And here's what we found. That in Marygrove, we didn't own any properties. We sued the abandoned houses. But we found that in East English Village, we owned a dozen houses. It has to do with some HUD program where they gave us money to buy stuff out of foreclosure. But these 12 houses are in good shape. And so we said, if we're going to start our website, our auction somewhere, why not start in East English Village? We got these 12 really good houses. Been sitting there empty for the last 3, 4, 5 years. What if we started here? So we went live, and we brought in your leadership from your neighborhood association. And I had an idea, because the way we've always done this is, we go and we do open houses so people can go through. And so I had like 12 different open house dates. And so Bill and your leadership came in, and they said, that's not how we do it in East English Village. Said, we have a big day. We bring everybody to one location. We have a bus. We shuttle around. All these people come through. We'll have a band. I think he's exaggerating, but I think he really is getting a band. Okay? He says, we really do have a band? Okay. He's got a band. He says, how about we do the open houses our way? I said, all right. This is what we want to do. You know your own neighborhood best. So we changed it, and now we're doing an open house for all 12 houses the afternoon of April 27th. And it's going to be hosted by East English Village. I had to get, part of the reason I wanted to do 12 open houses on 12 different days is then I could use one staff person who could move around. Now we got to get somebody to be in all the houses. So I volunteered for a house. I know Odell volunteered for a house. We're just going to show the whole house, the 12 houses all afternoon. And then Monday, May 5th, we're going to start the auctions. And we're going to auction one house a day. So the weekend before, a week before, we come through and do the big open house. Now, here's what I've learned. When I say auction, everybody thinks about the Wayne County auction. I didn't realize how much everybody hates the Wayne County auction. And it's terrible, isn't it? Right? They'll sell you a whole bunch of houses for $500. They don't care if you ever fix them up. They don't care if you ever pay the taxes. They don't care if they're selling the same house for $500 4 years later. It's crazy. Okay? This auction is not the Wayne County auction. The Wayne County auction is how not to do things, and it's not their fault. They're following state law. But here's our auction, because we don't have to follow the Wayne County rules. We're going to start by doing one house a day. If you want to bid, we're going to pre-screen you. If you have a history of losing houses for not paying your taxes, or you have a history of violating our codes, you can't bid. Metro Ventures will not be an eligible bidder in this auction, okay? And some of the others, they will not be eligible bidders. That is not what we're doing here. All right, so it seems like people agree with me on that one. All right. When you win the bid, and it'll start off in the morning, and at 5 o'clock, we'll have a winner. Works just like eBay. If somebody bids in the last couple minutes before 5, we put 5 more minutes on at the end. When I was prosecutor, some of these went on to like almost 6 o'clock. I'd watch those because the prices got really good on those events. But once you do that, you have to bring us a signed contract within 30 days with a rehab company. You have to prove you've led a contract to fix the house. If you don't, you lose your down payment and you lose the house. You have to start the rehab. Now, if you happen to be talented and qualified enough to rehab yourself, you can show us evidence of that, but in 30 days, you got to bring us the receipts from Home Depot showing you bought the shingles, you bought the drywall, so that you can prove to us that you're moving. And then, within 6 months, you got to have a certificate of occupancy and somebody has to be moved in. If they're not, we're taking back the house and we're keeping your money. This is not a, right, you like that? Okay. This is not an auction for speculators. This is an auction for people who want to be neighbors. Now, if you are a first-class developer and you want to bid and rent the house, I'm not stopping you. You can do that. But we want to talk about things we want to do to get as many homeowners as possible, because that's really what we would like to bring into this neighborhood. And so this is what we're saying to everybody up front. Now, there were times when I was a prosecutor when somebody was almost done with a rehab and a scrapper broke in and stole the hot water heater. We'll give them a 30-day extension if they're really working hard. We're not trying to treat people unfairly, but we are going to insist that if you win this bid, you have to be fixing up that house very, very quickly. And so you'll go on the website and you'll click on View Current Listings. And when you click, you'll see the first day today. If you go on there, when you go home now, you'll see 12 of these. You'll recognize some of these homes, Bishop, Harvard, etc. You'll click on a house, and so you'll see a picture of the house. It says up here, if you can't read it, the open house is the afternoon of April 27th, so you can see when you get to go through. The bidding starts Monday, May 5th. And then underneath there are a whole bunch of pictures of the inside and the outside of the house. We show you the good and the bad. And in some of these houses, there's beautiful fireplaces still there. In other houses, we got some wrecked bathrooms. That's all right. I mean, we want you to know what you're buying. The last thing we want is for you to buy it and have you not have the ability to fix it up. And so this house on Harvard will go on Wednesday, May 7th. It'll be the third one. And we're just going to go one day after another, one house after another, and we're going to see if we can't get your neighbors in. And so so what's going to be next? We're going to sell these 12, it says vacant lots, but it should say vacant houses. And if the auctions go well, we're going to come back in here to file lawsuits. So here's what I'm really looking for from you, is we want homeowners who want to be in the neighborhood. And so we're hoping that you're going to call your friends, you're going to call your relatives, you're going to tell them what this is like. The bid started at $1,000. Are these houses going to sell for $5,000? Are they going to sell for $30,000? I don't know. We're going to find out together. But one of the things Odell Tate's responsible for is get as many bidders as possible. I met with the president of St. John's today, St. John's Hospital. I said, I want you to do something with all your employees. Let them know that this is coming. We're going to talk to the churches in the area. And Odell will be in the churches on Sunday saying to the congregation, come out to the open house. Come bid on this. We want homeowners. And when they come out, those of you who live nearby, I hope you'll greet people on open house day and come say, I'd like you to be my neighbor. Make people feel welcome coming into the neighborhood. If this works, here's what we're going to do next. By the middle of May, these 12 houses that the city owns will be sold. But there's a number of other abandoned houses in East English Village too. And if you're in the surrounding neighborhoods, we're going to get to you in the near future. And so the next thing that we're talking to Bill and your group about is we're going to make East English Village a neighborhood where we go in and sue the owners, the private owners of the abandoned houses. And once we've sold the first 12, if we've done well, we'll go through and take the other ones away. And you know what I found when I did this 10 years ago when I was prosecutor? When I started doing this, a lot of the owners of the abandoned houses, they started to fix up their house, right? They started to paint the gutters. They thought, geez, if all the other houses are coming back, maybe this has value. And that's what I want. I don't actually want to take the house, right? What we really want are the people who have the houses to fix them up, move people in, and get them sold. So we're going to make East English Village a high priority. And so we hope that you will help us on this. Here's the other thing is I'm doing the best I can to get city government to work together. And we had another part of our operation that was about as messed up as anything, which was our public lighting operation. I think in 2013, they managed to get 500 new lights up overall. We have taken the Public Lighting Authority, and have you noticed in East English Village the lights up the last few weeks? Who's seen the lights going up? All right, I'm glad to hear it. So here's what I did. I went to our lighting team, and I said, we're going to be auctioning in May the houses in East English Village. In April, the website's going to be live. When people start driving through the neighborhood to look, I want the property values to be as high as possible. So they went through your streets and put in the lighting because we knew we were going to be here tonight to do this. We're trying to roll through these neighborhoods with all of our resources together. So let me tell you a little bit about what you've seen on the street lights. We're about 80 or 90% done within this area. For those that are in the adjoining neighborhoods, We'll have the rest of the schedule out in May, but I just want to give you a sense of what we're doing. We started actually in 2 pilot areas, on the west side west of Southfield, and on the east side in the 7 and Gratiot area. And now we're moving to the areas as we're doing the blight. So we've gone to Mary Grove, we're going to East English Village, and we're starting to move out. Here's what's happening on lighting. Today we got 88,000 fixtures. Half of them work. 53,000 are on your blocks, on neighborhood streets. 20,000 are in alleys. And then about 15,000 on the main roads, so Cadieux and Mac and the like, for 88,000. The Public Lighting Authority last year adopted a plan which I didn't like, and I think I'll show you why I didn't think it was very good, that we just changed. First thing they decided was we put in all the new lights, they were going to be the old sodium bulbs that we've always used. The rest of America is going to new LED lights. They were going to go through the city and put in all new sodium bulbs. That was the plan that they were acting on in January. In the alleys, they were going to take all the lights out of the alleys. Now, the alleys are a difficult situation because 30, 40 years ago, the alleys in this city were vacated to homeowners. When I was a kid, the garbage trucks came down the alleys, right? How many remember that, right? And so we'd play in the alleys as kids. They were public. When they moved the garbage removal to the main street, throughout most of the city, they gave the alleys back to the neighbors. In some neighborhoods, they moved the fences back. Some neighborhoods, they never did. Some neighbors don't even know you own the land back there, right? But the truth is, that is legally your backyard. The alley is your backyard. And so as we looked at this, we say, well, what do we do? The plan that was adopted said they're going to take down all the alley lights, the 20,000, even the 12,000 that work. And if you want to put up your own light, they weren't going to offer you any help. On the blocks, this is the thing that bothered me the most, the lights in front of your houses. They were going to cut them from 53,000 to 30,000. And if your block was less than 600 feet, which is a large number of blocks in the city of Detroit, they were going to put a light at one corner, a light at the other corner, and everything in the middle was going to be removed. If you had working lights in the middle of your block, they were going to pull them all out and just have lights at the corners because they said that's all we can afford. That was the plan that was in place when I came in January. It did not meet the national standards for lighting a block. So if you can imagine, we were in the process of going through the city with the old sodium lights only at the corners of all the blocks and no light at all in the alleys. We changed that plan, and I'll show you the difference. It's not perfect. Nobody's going to be completely happy with it, but I think you'll like it better than what you had before. So today we have 100% sodium lights. The 2013 plan, 100% sodium lights. The new plan we adopted in January, all LED lights, right? You've seen them go up, the new LED lights. You like the new LED lights? Okay? So the old lights were 75-watt sodium. The new lights are 150-watt LED. They're a lot brighter, aren't they? Okay, the biggest complaint I've had is I've gotten calls from people who said it's too bright in my house, right? And we actually have gone back and started to tilt the lights a little bit more to the street because people were right. It was awful bright. But if the worst problem I have is neighbors in Detroit complain that the light's too bright in their street, I figure I'll deal with that. The reason we were able to move so quickly is our first week, the city council passed a new lighting authority, and this is a great time to thank the sponsor of that, Councilman Andre Spivey. All right. So he made it easy for us to do the lighting authority and the land bank. So there's a difference. Second difference. Today we got 53,000 lights in the neighborhoods, half of them work. The 2013 plan went down to 30,000. The plan we've adopted is up to 42,000 in the blocks, and here's what we did different. You have a light now at each corner and a light in the middle of the block. That's our standard. Now, if you have an old sodium light and there are extra lights in the block, we're going to take those down. So we can't have some blocks that have got 3 lights in the middle, and another block has 1, another block has none, which is the way we've operated before. And so there will be 1 LED light in the middle of the block. There may be a sodium light 2/3 of the way down the block. They're going to take that sodium light out. We are going to have a single standard across the city. So when you look out the window and say, why are those fools taking down that operating light, which I've already heard, because we really thought this thing through carefully. And spacing the LED lights equally across the whole city is the right thing to do. The alleys are a little trickier. We don't have the money to light the alleys, and I say that they're your backyards. On the other hand, where the alley meets the street, we're going to put a light there. So before you turn down the alley, that's lit. If the light is working today, we're going to leave it up. We didn't see any reason to take a lot of time to pull down 12,000 working lights. So if it's not working, we're going to take it down. If it's working, we're going to leave it up. But if it stops working, we're not going to replace it. We just don't have the ability to light both the front yard and the backyard. But we worked out a deal with Detroit Edison that if you want to get together with your neighbors, they'll put a light in the alley in for $100, and it'll cost you $17 a month. I know there's some neighborhood groups are doing it together. Some people are getting together with the neighbors behind them. People who have rear entrance garages, in many cases, are already hanging a light from their garage anyway. But this is how we're going to handle the alley. So it won't make everybody happy, but it seemed like it was better than what we had before. And so that's what you're seeing. I would say we're 80 to 90% of the lights being through in East English Village. We'll be wrapping it up pretty shortly. And then we're going to have a plan over probably the next 18 months where we're going to light every block in every neighborhood in the city. They are now putting up 600 to 700 lights a week. It is phenomenal how fast the lighting authority is working. And in May, they're going to roll out a schedule for the whole city. So that's kind of what we're doing here. That's what you can expect to see. And I just wanted to come out and tell you myself what we were doing and explain why, so you know what you're seeing. And with that, don't sit down. Because before I start taking questions, I do want us to hear a word from both of my partners here, Council President Brenda Jones and Councilman Spivey.
Good evening, everyone. My tardies for being late. Being an elected official, you have the ebbs and flow of highs and lows. And so this afternoon we had the press conference, and I was at EEV High School for a meeting regarding the shooting, and now I'm here. So we get the gamut of everything. But this is a great day for District 4 and a great day for EEV and our entire area. And I'm just so glad that we have a mayor. I don't think you go to many cities where the mayor is actually leading the presentation at an evening meeting with the neighbors. So he's here talking, flipping the switch, and giving you everything he has. And I think it shows that we have a mayor who does not just sit in his office and have people come to him, tell him what's going on. He's involved in every process in this city government. And I think we're on the move. I'm glad we have a mayor like Mike Duggan. And I hope you see now, Mr. Mayor, what we have in District 4. We have a church full of committed residents. And I might add, we have a lot of city workers who are your department heads who live right here in District 4, and particularly EEV. So we're glad you all are here. And I want District 4 to be the catalyst for every single district in this city. And with our mayor, our council person, our district manager, assistant DM, and our president, we will make that happen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here in District 4, and you're welcome anytime, sir.
Good evening to everyone. Well, first of all, let me say this is a great day. I know you all have been so tired of seeing houses boarded up, vacant houses next door to you, and saying, I wish I had a neighbor. I'm tired of this house looking like this. Well, guess what? You will have a neighbor soon. Thanks to our mayor and his leadership and the great things that are happening in this city, I am so happy for East English Village. As I've traveled through this neighborhood, one of the things that I've said is, this is a great neighborhood. and it is a great neighborhood. And there is no reason why you should have houses next to you that are vacant. So I look forward to continuing to partner with this great mayor who is out in the community, who have great visions for this city. I look forward to working with people like the district manager who's in the neighborhood as well, who lives in this area as well. I look forward to continuing to work with my colleague who lives in this neighborhood as well. And I look forward to continuing to work with you all. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all that you have done. One of the things that have been important to me is getting somebody who realizes that the neighborhoods are important. It's not all about midtown and downtown. We know that midtown and downtown is important, but the one thing that we know is we pay some serious taxes in the neighborhoods as well. And so the neighborhoods are important. And this mayor recognizes that. So again, thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and continue to keep the neighborhood that you have as great as this neighborhood is. Thank you.
Thank you. And so, did you think you'd see the mayor and the council getting along like this? Yeah. All right. So you'll hear a really odd thing tomorrow. Our radio ads start for the website, and Council President Jones and I cut the ad together to pitch it. So anyway, at the end of the ad, she improvised on one of the takes, where at the end of the ad, when they were running the tape, she said, "How about we get houses and move in right next door to each other?" And I said, "Right next door?" But they decided not to use that one. But I think you'll feel good when you hear the ad, and it's what we need to be doing. With that, now I've talked for long enough. I want to hear what's on your mind. What do you think about this? What should we be doing that we're not doing? We got a microphone right here. Please just step right up so that everybody can hear you. Go ahead. Whoever wants to go in whatever order. I'm going to stay and answer all the questions.
Good evening. My name's Steve Babson. I live in East English Village, and I think I speak on behalf of a lot of folks here that we really welcome this kind of initiative. And I want to support it, but I also want to suggest at least one way in which I think it could be improved. And I'm going to draw from the experience of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who I generally am quite critical of because they don't do enough to keep people in their homes, and I think that's the best way to avoid blight, is to keep struggling families in their home with principal reduction, and if they're hanging in there, keep them in that home rather than foreclosing and evicting. But when it comes to the auction, there is one thing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac do that I like and that I'd love to see added here, and that is they have a website, they have an auction for repossessed homes, and it's called First Look. And what they allow is anyone who is intending to move into that house gets the first opportunity to bid. They divide the auction, in other words, into two parts. And they say the first part should be only those people who are going to move into that home, and the winning bid among that group takes the house. If no one bids on the home, then they open it up to investors. And I would much rather see that approach as a way of improving our prospects for keeping this a homeowner community. Not that we were all renters at one point, and there should be rental housing available. But in terms of the stability of the neighborhood and stabilizing it, we want to keep people in their homes. And secondly, if the home does go empty, give people intending to move in and live there first bid on it. Is that something you would see as compatible?
We're gonna look at that. We have, as I told Bill, we got 12 people who have 12 different theories on how to do it. And Fannie Mae owns a whole lot of houses in this city they have not been able to dispose of. So you get into all kinds of questions. You say you intend to move into the house. Somebody bids on the house. What if they don't move in? Who's going to go and inspect? Who's going to take it back? Do you restart the auction, etc.? So I'm not telling you that we won't someday get there, but we're going to start because I believe we've got at least 5,000 salvageable homes in this city. And so we're going to start with these 12, and with the support here, we're going to learn. And before we're done, maybe we'll get to that, or maybe we'll find out that we're getting homeowners doing it the way we're doing it. And so we're going to learn together and keep an open mind.
Okay.
But I love the suggestion.
My name's Gerald Dalian. I lived in Detroit all my life, except for 2 years in the military. But I would like to know when the city is going to be accountable for their finances. Because right now, I know that when the new manager stepped in, he went in and looked and he says, I don't know where all the money's going. Well, the U.S. government turns their money over to a financial institution who manages their money. And this is one of the ways that you're going to bring people back to Detroit, by letting them know that this is a sound city. And where is the money going? That's number one. And then number two is we've been having people break into these houses for 25 years. But they have never changed any laws or made it hard or accountable or prosecute or added laws on the books that would prosecute them, make a $1,000 fine, 2 years in jail, or whatever they have to do. People just walk in and tear up a house and walk away. And cause thousands of dollars worth of damage, and they end up with a couple $100 in their pocket.
So let me take your two issues together, or at least first one. First one is, I don't know that I would hold up Washington, D.C. as the model of the best management of financial affairs. But what I would say is this. The emergency manager is in place until October 1st. At that point, the elected officials will take over again. But I went into the Detroit Medical Center in 2004 after they'd lost $100 million a year for 5 years and were on the verge of bankruptcy. We ran it 9 years in a row in the black, adding employment, doing it right. We're bringing in a first-class management team, and I'm confident that we will manage responsibly when we get the authority. Second, the issue of the illegal scrappers has been tearing apart the city. And I don't know if you follow what was happening on that scrap metal bill, but it looked in January like it was dead. I mean, the scrappers were beating it in Lansing. And President Jones and I brought all our Detroit legislators over to my house for breakfast. And we said, we have a single bill. We want to speak with a single unified voice. And all I asked for was two things. One, if you sell catalytic converters, copper wires, or air conditioning units to a scrapyard, you have to present ID, and we will mail the check to the address on the ID. You can't get the money that's there. They're using fake IDs. They're using fake sellers. So all I want is mail the check on the ID. Now we got a paper trail. And second, take a clear picture of the seller so we can prosecute these people. The scrap industry fought that tooth and nail. But we hung together, and if you didn't follow this, 3 weeks ago we got the bill passed, and last week it was signed by the governor. So it goes into effect October 1st. Now, the law doesn't settle this by itself. Our police still need to go out. We still need to make arrests. We still need to follow up. But we've got tools to track these illegal scrappers like we never have, and we're going to pursue them diligently.
Well, you should add some fines to them, too.
Oh, yeah.
You should add some definitely fines for them, because they're getting it off with a slap on their hand.
Well, and see, I look at it just the opposite. I'm not interested, and I'll go back to when I was prosecutor. We started off by trying to chase these scrappers all around the city. And if you arrest somebody for taking copper wire in Wayne County with all the violence we have, that person's going to get probation. Then I got smarter, and I figured out that these 1,000 scrappers are only selling to 17 scrapyards. It is a felony to buy property you should know is stolen. And if you do it repeatedly, you can seize the scrapyard for acting in illegal activity. I started with these when I was prosecutor, and the scrapyard owners, they all came in and said, why are you picking on us? We're honest scrapyard owners. We don't know this stuff's stolen. And I would say, when a guy comes down the street pushing a shopping cart filled with aluminum siding. You got pretty good reason to know he did not get it by lawful means. So we're going to use these tools, but I'm going to focus on going after the scrap yards and shutting down the money. All right? Go ahead. Next question.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Mr. Tate, and East Indian Village. I'm from Yorkshire Woods, and we have a major problem with an apartment building. We just did it on the internet today and found out there's roughly 18 people that own this apartment building. I have a list. I'm gonna give
What's
it to
the
Mr.
apartment building called?
Whittier Manor. It's on Whittier between
Whittier Manor.
between King Richard and McKinney.
Okay.
They're selling drugs out of one end, and they got one guy watching the house. No windows. We boarded it up last summer with State Representative Brian Banks. They have tore down the boarding. All the junk that they took out of the apartment building, they put off into the alley. Some neighbors and I, we got together. We cleaned it up. We went back this weekend. We even finished cleaning out the vacant lot that they had dumped it all in. My question is, how they say it's on the demolition list. How long would it be on the demolition list?
Well, that's a good question. So this is the reason why we have district managers. So we're going to get your name and your address because there is a commercial demolition list, and we'll get you an answer on that. In the meantime, though, we need to talk to Chief Craig. As you know, I'm not responsible for the police department yet, which is something that has me extremely angry. But in the meantime, maybe we can talk to Chief Craig about stepping up the law enforcement, and we will get you an answer on where that stands on the commercial list.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Keep up your work.
Good evening, Mr.
Good evening.
Mayor. I'd like to applaud you for your efforts on the efforts to put people into homes that are abandoned. But I would like to ask, well, I should say I'm a realtor. For the last 17 years, who cut her teeth in foreclosure, spent all of her 17 years in foreclosure. Wayne County in 2010 went online with their foreclosures, and Detroit had about 19,000 properties by itself. I think the whole auction itself only had about 20,000 properties, but Detroit had a huge number of people who were being foreclosed on. And when you do, as a realtor, a short sale, sometimes the seller move out of the property and they put their property on the market. It'll be empty, it'll be maintained, but the bank may still say, or send a letter to that home and say, you have abandoned this house, and if you don't reply within so many days, we are taking this property from you. We just have so many foreclosed, so many properties that are abandoned and vacant, and what do you really determine or deem to be abandoned? I mean, if I am an owner of a property, but I'm keeping my property up, I'm cutting the grass just as well as the neighbors who are living in those properties, and you wouldn't know it was abandoned unless the next door neighbor told you it was empty, you know, and you still would sue me to take that property, even though I'm working as hard as I can to keep it.
So tell me so here's my question, because you're asking a really good question. So what is the answer? You've got to get it occupied one way or another.
Absolutely.
Either you rent it, you lower your price and you sell it, but here's what happens. You may be maintaining it as well as you can, but in this town, it is a matter of time until they figure out nobody's there and they get inside and start scrapping it. So my question is, what's your solution? And so here's what happens. We will go through, and we just did this in Marygrove. We posted on the 79 houses that appeared to be abandoned. We posted a notice and said, you have 72 hours to contact us. Now, we had somebody who was out of town for the winter. Somebody broke into their house while they were out of town. A relative put plywood over the door after the break-in. They're still out of town. And we said to them, look, you need to come back. We need to have a timeline in which you're going to fix it. But when you are gone from your house so much, people are breaking it in, it's covered with plywood. That's not acceptable.
Well, I am in town. My property is not boarded. The grass is maintained probably better than some of the neighbors that live over
So
there.
what are you going to do with it?
I'm just working as hard as I can. Sometimes I'm over there standing up there by myself trying to maintain that property to make sure that my house look as good as them neighbors who are living in
What are you
there.
doing to get it occupied?
Working on it. I'm not a rich woman. I'm sorry, I'm not a nonprofit yet, but I'm doing what I can, Mr. Mayor, to get that property occupied, because it's not making me any money, or it's not doing any of the neighbors any good to just have it sitting empty. And as far as scrappers are concerned, they don't always come up with a buggy. They come up with contractor trucks. They done stole the roofs off of churches,
No doubt.
off of federal buildings on Jefferson. I mean, and it's not just your average Joe,
Yeah.
and I've seen it
Yeah.
all. And
If you've got a house that you don't have the resources to fix up, then I know this sounds cold, but you shouldn't buy the house, because it becomes your neighbor's problem. I mean, it just does.
well, I was just trying to help my neighbors to take it off of the streets and then use it to help train some of these young men that are being locked up every day for senseless crimes. Train them on these properties.
So here's what's gonna happen if your house happened to get posted, and it would say call the land bank in 72 hours. When you call the land bank, they'll say to you, we don't want to sue you. Sign a consent agreement that you'll have a contract to get it rehabbed in 30 days, and somebody will be in the house within 6 months. If you do, you have no problem with us. If you say, I can't commit to having somebody in the house for 6 months, then we're going to move on the property, because it can't be your neighbor's problem. I know you may disagree with that, but that's the way that we're approaching it.
Well, I don't disagree with it, Mr. Mayor.
No, go ahead. I don't want to cut this short. Go ahead.
I don't want to disagree with you on that, and taking the properties back and doing your auction thing and what have you, and probably increasing the property value along the way. Now, I understand you are allowing some, from just what I'm read on some of the websites today, that you are offering to auction the properties, and then the homeowner who buy it, they'll receive $25,000 to fix that property up. Well, what would stop me, who got a house that got a $100,000 mortgage on that house, from walking away and buying that property and saying, scrap that, I can get this house and get $25,000?
Again, that's something that Talmer Bank is offering in the Marygrove area. But whoever buys the houses in the Marygrove area is going to be able to move in there. I think it's a good thing that they're offering the $25,000. If somebody chooses to walk away from a $100,000 house, that's
$100,000 mortgage.
Okay, and
there's a difference.
So I'm not telling you that can't happen. All I know is what we have been doing has not been working, and so.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
But that's all right. These are the kinds of conversations we need to have.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mayor Duggan. First of all, I wanted to thank you so much for bringing back the nuisance abatement program. I've been talking to people about this for the last 12 years. I've been involved in my community and saying, we got to bring it back. And thank God, thank you for bringing it back.
Thank you.
Second, I'm president of Creekside Community Development Corporation. That's the Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood.
You're doing a great job over there.
Well, we are. And thanks for recognizing it.
No, I was over the night you guys opened those two places with Kathy McKeon at Jefferson and Chalmers. It's terrific.
It is. It's a wonderful neighborhood. When I moved, I stalked my present house for 3 years. Harbor Island is where I live, and I knew I wanted to live there. And when I moved in, I said, this is it for the rest of my life. I'm dying here. They're taking me out feet first. So failure is not an option. So, and I lived in this community in East English Village before I went there. So this is Old Home Week. Enough about me. Creekside has a number of things that we want to talk about with the district manager, and fortunately we have an appointment already to talk with him. But in the meanwhile, we also have a collaboration between the 5 neighborhood organizations in our community. It's called the Jefferson Chalmers Neighborhood Stabilization Implementation Committee.
Right.
And we happen to be meeting before we can meet with Odell on Thursday this week at 6 o'clock. And that will be the leaders of all of the community organizations and other worker bees. And we've got so many questions about where to go for this, where to go for that, and we want to share. Everybody's asking questions of us, and we would like to be able to share some of that information. So I was wondering if there's somebody you could refer me to just get some basic information to be able to share.
This is your man.
Yes.
That's why he's here.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up all of your time.
That's why he's here. He's the person on the east side for exactly that reason.
Right.
Is to ask those questions. And then when you have ideas from your group, every Wednesday morning I meet with all 7 district managers across the city, and they share your best ideas with each other. So an idea that might come out of Creekside could end up helping the Hubbard-Richard neighborhood on the other side of the city next week. That's the way we're trying to do this.
Well, but while we were working on our neighborhood stabilization, we were busy stealing great ideas from all over the city. From all of the other organizations that are doing great work. But 2 things I wanted to say is I wanted to say that I agree also with what Steve talked about trying to open it up to homeowners first. Our communities were primarily owner-occupied houses. And since this foreclosure crisis and the decimation of the financial services industry, our neighborhoods have been devastated.
Right.
So we need to get people who are going to be in our community and live in our community back in. So I wanted to emphasize that.
I agree with you.
And secondly, the woman who just spoke here is Tracy Heron. She is a neighbor of mine and a hard community worker. She's been involved in our community for a long time. And I appreciate, I've been working with the DLBA for the last 7 or 8 months now, coordinating with them about what we want to see happen in our neighborhood, and that's been a great relationship. We look forward to continuing that. But we wanted to say, first of all, we have a lot of initiatives. We'll be sharing things we want to do, but we're targeting investor-owned properties in our neighborhood first. Tracy is an investor. She's one of those little people who owns a few houses in the neighborhood, and as long as somebody is taking care of the house and so the exterior is not blighted. If it happens to be vacant, please don't go after these people because it takes a long time. That's not something we want to see happen, nor do we want to see owner-occupied houses getting hit with code violations at a time when we have virtually no resources for home repair in our neighborhoods, especially for people that can't afford it.
So that's the reason that Odell will be there, because we want to have these conversations. We have some neighborhood groups where they are very strong. They want us to go out and do code enforcement. And so we're going to try to partner with the neighborhood groups in strategies together.
We do. But we very much need resources for people in our neighborhoods, so many of them that cannot afford to fix up their own homes. And that needs to be a priority that we're desperately looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
My name is Nathan Brown. I'm a native Michigander, but fairly new to Detroit. I've been working here for 2 or 3 years as a grad student at Michigan, and I just recently moved back to be a permanent resident. I just started a business here. We're a development company. You've already partially answered some of my questions, but the thing that I came here, one, to confirm who was going to be the agency that was going to be in charge of trying to figure out where the disposition of all these homes. And then I wanted to get your thoughts on how far we are in trying to figure out the number of houses that fit into different categories. So you said 5,000 houses you think can be.
If I were guessing citywide, I think there are 50,000 abandoned houses in this city, and I think at least 5,000 are structurally sound that we could move families into.
Okay. My next question beyond that would be if it's somewhere in between. It's a structure that's it's not totally gone, but there's no demand for housing in that area. But it's got plenty of stuff in it that it's worth saving some of the stuff in it as opposed to demolishing it. So what's the plan for doing anything such as skimming, deconstruction? Because that's one of the things that we're looking at.
I've heard lots of theories about deconstruction where you take it down instead of demolish it. And so we are letting demolition contracts through the land bank at a very efficient rate. In the next package, we're going out with a group of 10 houses. What we're doing is we're taking 10 to 25 houses in a geographic area and putting them out for bids. We break them up so that the smaller minority-owned companies from Detroit are able to bid on them. And in the first 14 packages we've awarded, 11 of the 14 were won by companies in the city of Detroit. And so that part is working. We're trying to spend every dollar we can in the city. In the next batch, we're going to put out a set of bids where the winning bidder has to deconstruct the house.
That's
And
great.
so we're going to have a batch of 10, and we're going to find out, can you deconstruct the house and recycle it competitively? Or does it cost 3 times as much? Does it take 3 times as long? But rather than listen to people debate it, I told our people, put out a bid where everybody has to deconstruct, and we're going to find out what the answer is, and we'll know in the next month or 2.
Okay, great.
All right?
Sure.
And if you've got a company that's capable of bidding on it,
Yeah.
just watch the bids.
Okay, great. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Essie Regina Jones. I live on Bishop. I'm running for Wayne County Circuit Court, and I work down at 36. A couple of things I just wanted to ask of you and the City Council. You are aware that Lansing took one of the seats from 36 District Court. Now, with regards to prosecuting people who are scrapping and everything, and the city does have ordinance that makes it a misdemeanor for people to scrap and remove fixtures from vacant buildings and dwellings, just so you all know that. But are you all going to lobby Lansing to get that open seat, to get the seat back at 36? Because they're currently working under the number of seats that is already recommended for that court. It is the 3rd largest district court in the country, and I just wanted to know, is the city planning on trying to get back a seat? Because the citizens, myself included, we desperately need our judges here, and as if anybody who's been at 36 knows that it is, difficult. We have long lines and so forth. So I want to know if you're all going to do anything with that. Secondly, do you have a buy-in with the banks? Because a lot of times people are trying to save their homes. Banks are not willing to work with the people. They'd rather let it go into foreclosure, and then we have investors coming in and buying. I don't want just any neighbor. I want a good neighbor in my neighborhood. I don't want the vacant houses going to somewhere, and they're going to be playing loud music to 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I have to get up at 7. So could you just address those concerns?
The first thing is, let's talk about this. The easiest thing in the world for a politician is to stand up and tell you what you want to hear. Yeah, I'm going to go up to Lansing and lobby for a whole bunch more money to be spent in the city of Detroit, add judges to 36 District Court. We have a Republican House, we have a Republican Senate, and Rick Snyder's the governor. Okay? What are the chances? Okay, so I don't spend a lot of time promising things that I know are not realistic. Do I believe we should have more judgeships? Absolutely. Am I going to spend a lot of time promising you to lobby something that I know is not practical? No, I'm not going to. And relative to the prosecutions, we are looking at the possibility of doing more of the prosecutions on the city ordinance side out of the city corp council to give Kim Worthy some help, because she's underfunded in her operation, and we're finding ways to work together and maximize all that we can get done on these scrappers.
Okay, and actually, just so you know, it wasn't the Republicans that pushed for the removal of 4 seats in Wayne County Circuit. It was actually the Democrats up north that didn't want their seats taken and suggested that the seats be taken from Wayne County, just so we're clear as to that issue there. But with the seat at 36 District Court, this 36 has 31 judges currently. They will be down to 30 judges come January 2015. I'm not asking for the city to lobby to get more judges. Just don't remove the number of seats that we currently have. That's all. That's the only thing that I'm asking.
I agree with
for
you,
y'all
but
to
it's
do.
under the
Thank
control
you
of the
so
state
much.
of Michigan. We don't have anything to do with that.
So we've got a
Okay,
lot of
thank you.
people who have
Okay, go ahead.
questions, so I want to
Thank
make
you.
sure we get as many people as possible.
ahead.
So if you could keep
Thanks.
the questions.
Good evening, Mayor
Hi.
Duggan. I voted for you.
I'm glad to hear it.
I really appreciate what you're saying tonight. My wife and my name is Ethan Boyd. I'm one of the block captains on Harvard here in East English Village. This is a real lighthearted request. We've been doing a block party for the past 2 years. This year is going to be our 3rd year. It'll be July the 19th. We would like to personally invite you to come down.
You want me to come to a party?
Yes, sir.
I'm in.
That's why I said it's lighthearted.
I'm in.
Yeah. we're gonna do. Last year we incorporated a macaroni and cheese tasting contest, and our councilman Spivey actually came and was one of
Really?
our judges.
Wow. All right,
So
you want me to judge any food
this
contest?
year we want you to
I'm
judge
qualified.
the
yes.
desserts. We're doing desserts this
Desserts.
year.
All right.
So anyway,
Anybody's got a chili cook-off, I'm in on that too. All right.
So anyway, sir, I'd like to just give you a letter. This is explain
Great.
a little more
Thank you.
personally and invite you to come.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you July 19th. All right, thank you.
Hello, Mayor
Hey.
Duggan, and
Do,
our
do
council
you have a
people.
party for me?
I could. Excuse me, I could do one right here. We can party all the time. But you know, I'm coming to you, I'm Jocelyn Harris from Jeff Chalmers, 40 years there. And my concern is about stabilizing our neighborhood by stabilizing people. And in order to do that, the solution that I bring to you is that we need opportunities to get our recreation and community centers reopened.
Right. Right.
And I really know that you're not DPS, but I would add to that our public schools.
Right.
Because the reality is that people are attracted, as I was as a young mother, to communities where there are excellent schools, where there are amenities for families. In Jeff Chalmers, we worked very hard to have a stable community, but our young people are suffering. So I come to you, Mayor, I know you said it off the record that you would support a community center in Jefferson Chalmers, and the property that we're looking at is a DPS property adjacent to a City of Detroit property. Our councilperson, Andre Spivey, is totally in support of us having a community center, but I would really hope that you would join the chorus of voices in our community that are working toward a community center.
So again, I am going to be honest with you about what we can do and what we can't do. You know, this city is in bankruptcy. And I didn't come in and find a bag of money in the basement that Dave Bing left behind. Okay, I've got to deal with the same constraints. And so we have got to increase the recreational opportunity for our young people. We're going to continue to have the same kinds of problems. Last summer, we basically operated 25 parks in this city out of 275. I saw parks in this city when I was campaigning last summer when the grass was to here and somebody had cut a path in the grass from the edge of the park to the swing set. And little kids are walking through that to get on the swings. This year, we're going to have the announcement tomorrow, but we are going to maintain 150 parks from the city of Detroit, and we've got, that part's good, and we've got churches and businesses adopting another 75 parks. So we're going to have 225 parks instead of 25 parks, fully operational. In addition, I'm talking to Jack Martin and the schools for this reason. It is not realistic for us to build a bunch of new recreation centers. You got a building that you got to maintain 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. On the other hand, your point's the right one. We got a lot of school buildings in this city, which tend to be in populated areas. What Jack Martin and I are talking about is when the council and I have control of our budget next year, could we maybe pay recreation aides from the city to keep those school buildings open after schools, during the summers, give the kids a place to go and use the resources we have to extend those recreation opportunities. So I'm going to continue to partner every way I can. We've got Lear Corporation rebuilding Clark Park in southwest Detroit with private money, and we're going to continue to try to find partnerships. But I don't want to sit here and say I'm going to open a bunch of rec centers, because that's, at least as with today's finances, I don't think that's a reasonable expectation.
I just want, just briefly, I know what you're saying is absolutely true. So what we're doing is that we're partnering with businesses and residents. We're not expecting our bankrupt city to come to our rescue. So there's a multitude of people who are willing to put money into
Good.
this.
Then I want
And
to be your
So we just
partner.
need your support.
Then I want to be your partner. If we've got land we can give you, if we've got things that we can do like that, we want to be partnered on those kinds of things. And if you'll talk to Odell before you go, and that's what I'm saying, because I've got a couple of communities where people are coming forward with private money to do recreational opportunities. I'd love to partner with you.
Okay. Thank
All right?
you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name's Curtis Burns. I'm chairperson of the Jeff Chalmers Citizens District Council. As you can see, Mayor, Jeff Chalmers is out strong tonight.
Right.
We love our community. It's one of Detroit's flagship communities, and we're committed to it. What I'd like to ask you is, how committed are you to Jeff Chalmers? Okay, we have 4 waterfront parks. One of them is a premier park. The other one is Maharis Gentry. Then we have the Wayne County Detroit Shared Park. But there's one park that's left out, and that's Lakewood East. It's a disaster. Mayor, we cannot let that park go to waste. It's a riverfront park. We need to save it.
Is Brad still here? We're going to get Brad Dick, who happens to be a resident of this neighborhood, and he's going to know the answer, because I can't tell you that I've been to Lakewood. Did he sneak out on us?
It's down at the end of Alta Road, across the bridge. But, you know, if anyone's been there, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, so Brad thought he was coming as an East English Village resident, but we're going to put him on the spot if he's still there and see if we can get you an answer to your question. Brad's taken off on us already? All right, so Odell, would you get this gentleman an answer from Brad tomorrow on that? I just don't know the answer to
Okay,
that.
and then one other question. That community, because of the canals, you have a lot of residents who are mariners. The main canal that comes in there where the boaters come in is not lit. There are one light that's up there, but it doesn't work. If we can get a light in there, it would truly help, because there were a couple boaters that ran aground because they couldn't see at night.
Okay.
And one other question, again, what developmental commitments are you willing to make for Jeff Chalmers, if any?
So Tucson, raise your hand, and maybe I'll say this to anybody. If you've got questions about a particular property or particular situation, you don't need to stand in line. Go talk to Tucson, talk to Odell. We'll check on the light, on the boaters, and if you've got an idea on an individual development project, raise it with your district manager. You know, we've got lots of resources and lots of ideas, but we're looking for things where the community is bringing us support and ideas as well.
And as you can see, Jeff Chalmers, all the organizations work
Lots
tight.
of Jeff Chalmers people here. I got it. Yeah, the message is received.
He's good, isn't he?
He's very good.
He went to school with my children.
All right, well, we're going to get him his light. I know that.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
How are you?
Bernice Smith from Political Active, and I will be soon with your Human Rights Division, and I will be checking with your property people and so forth. But in the meantime, I think this is a wonderful organization that's here, and they represent themselves very good. So therefore, I would want them to continue to look out for each other. I'm also on the Police Action Committee. And those that have questions in regards to crime and whatever, please come down to the police headquarters on Thursdays at 3 o'clock, and we will take all your complaints. What the mayor can't take, we'll take them.
There you go. You got Mother Bernice.
You have one of your commissioners sitting back there, Commissioner Bell, and he's very active with us. So I just want all of you to know, you're not by yourself. You got help out here. I've been in politics ever since the Coleman Young days, so I know what it's all about, believe me. And still, we have the crime. I'm involved with the police chief, and I hope most of you realize that he's doing all he can to help clean up this city. And if you, again, have any complaints, come down there and see us on Thursday at 3 o'clock. Now, if you have complaints with the mayor, now you'll have to see him at the meetings. And that's all I can say.
So let's let the people who might have complaints with
But
me
anyway,
have a
I
turn
thank
here.
you so much for coming here and
I
coming
always
to
love to
all
see
the
you.
neighborhoods, because they appreciate that, Mayor. They really
and
do.
you come to all the neighborhoods too.
Well, I got to watch out for you.
All right. Thank you. You okay there? You got to watch that stand.
Hello. My name is. Okay. You got it.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
My name is Sabrina Walker, and I have been living in Detroit all my life. I love the city. I love the house that I live in. It's 100 years old, but it's still beautiful. It has so much character. And I also invest. I'm an investor, so I own 5 rental properties in the city, and I have taken houses that was completely gutted, and I actually made them beautiful, and it did not cost me $20,000 to do it. So I am doing that. I
Good
am
for
doing
you.
my part to bring the city back. I am trying to. My question is, the house next door to me is burnt down, and I'm sure it's on the demolition list. I need to know, how do I acquire the land once it is demolished?
So 2 great questions. So and this is, I'm going to tell you, if you have an individual address, go right to Odell or Tucson, but there's 2 things. One is, we have a list of 1,200 properties in the city on the fire escrow list, which are demo crews. It turns out we got $20 million the city hasn't been using. We're going through and demoing those houses. That's step 1. The second step is ultimately going to be up to the city council, but this is where I hope we're going to go, is the city council's in the process of moving the vacant houses to the land bank, but we have 50,000 vacant lots still owned by the city. And before this year is over, what we want to do is move those lots to the land bank in a way that we agree on, that you could walk down to your district manager, write a check for $100, and get title of that vacant lot next to your house. And I think that's a goal, right, that we're all going to try and get to. It's going to take us a while, because figuring out how to manage 50,000 is going to take some time, but we need to start getting those houses back in the hands of the neighbors.
Okay.
And if you talk to Odell, he might even be able to jumpstart your particular property.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, good question.
Hi.
Hey.
My name is Emily Evans. I work jointly for the Michigan Historic Preservation Network and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And we already enjoy a good relationship with the DLBA and with Creekside and Jefferson East. And we're actually holding a series of workshops in Jefferson East that are empowering and imparting knowledge on homeowners how to keep up your older properties. So I just wanted to say a comment rather than a question. I'll give you a break. And that is, thank you for changing the dialogue around what it means to eliminate blight. And that means that it's not just demolition, demolition, demolition. It really is about bringing buildings back online. It's about rehab. It's about keeping buildings contributing to the neighborhood and to their communities. And thank you for that.
Very well said. All right. Hi.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you, Mayor Duggan, for giving a darn about our city.
Okay.
It's been a long time. My name is Renita Holiness. I live in East English Village. I've been in Detroit all of my adult life. I initially bought a home over in 48225 when I first got married back in '77, and that area now has been deemed the worst zip code in the city. My mother lives in 48203. I have sisters that live in Green Acres. I have another family member that lives in Conant Gardens. Conant Gardens and 48203 and my brother in 48205 are some of the most awful areas of the city. At one point in time, it was being said that people that, for instance, lived on a block where there were 5 homes that were occupied and maintained well, and the rest of the 20 were bad, that those people were going to be asked to leave. Mayor Bing said he was possibly going to be buying those people out. What's going to happen to my mom that's still in 48203? Because we in East English Village and out of the others, we're going to get the attention because we talk and we have people that represent us, but they do not. What do you see as happening in those neighborhoods, in those zip codes?
So what I have right now is just my ideas, and this is part of what City Council and I are going to work together in the next 6 months. Number one, somebody who has lived in their house, raised their family in their house, should not be told they have to leave. Okay, it's just not right. And I disagree with Mayor Bing when he basically said, we're going to turn off your street lights, we're not going to fix your roads, we're writing off your neighborhood. Because you go into those neighborhoods and you invariably find somebody there who's very proud, still painting their fence, still planting their flowers,
Absolutely.
and doesn't want to go. I don't think it's our job to force them out. What I will be proposing to City Council later this year, and we haven't had a chance to flesh out the details, will be something like this. I want to go to your mom and say, Council and I together have designated some areas as incentive zones. That maybe there's only 3 or 4 occupied houses on a block. I want to say to your mom, because you've kept up your house in an incentive zone, I'd like to give you triple credit on any one of our auction houses anywhere else in the city. So we'll go in, we'll appraise her house. Let's say she's keeping her house up and it appraises at $10,000. I want to say to her, you're welcome to stay as long as you want.
In that home.
In that house. But if you want to move, we're going to have auctions. We're going to be at a point where we're selling 2 and 3 houses a day. You could maybe move a mile or two away. We'll give you $30,000 of credit in any auction you want. And when you move from your $10,000 house into the $30,000 house, we're going to keep your taxes at the $10,000 level for as long as you stay in that new house, right? So think about what we're saying. If you're in a neighborhood that's got a couple abandoned houses on a block, and the lady who kept up her house when everything else was going bad around her, do you want her as your neighbor? Right? You do. Absolutely. You want her. You want to welcome her, right? We want her to move in. Now, if the person next to her has got a place that's fallen over, and we appraise that at $2,000, we'll give them $6,000 in credit. We don't want the person whose house didn't maintain it moving into some of the better ones. I'm hoping when we do that you will go to your mom, who may not want to move, and say, Ma, let's go look at some houses. Let's go hit some of these open houses. And if and when she sees a house that feels right to her, then we get her to move. But think about, it doesn't cost us anything. We've got an abandoned house in the old neighborhood. We move your mom into the house in the old neighborhood. She's still paying the same taxes she was, and she fills up the house. But we are going to have to let some of these areas go back. Maybe it'll be community gardens. I'm not sure what exactly the solution will be. But we're going to have to get that way, but we're going to do it with positive incentives, not forcing anybody to move.
Okay, thank you for your answer. One short question. I noticed that when you were talking earlier about the alleys behind the homes, I had a neighbor around the block from us put in a privacy fence and extended it out into the alley.
Right.
Someone from Building and Safety came in and had them take that fence down in the alley. So there's a disconnect in the departments.
You know, there's a history in every alley in the city, as I have learned. And some have rights-of-ways and some don't. So I don't doubt that story at all. I've heard that in some neighborhoods they've taken them down. In other neighborhoods, they're all pushed all the way up to each other. So it depends. But go ahead. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Michael Brooks, and I live in the Yorkshire area on Everett Street. I'm having a big problem in my area, which is I got 4 stop signs on Everett and King Richard.
Okay.
They're blowing the stop signs.
Really?
They're blowing it. I'm old-fashioned. I believe that the stop sign says stop, stop. Don't be blowing through like your police car. Somebody's going to get killed there, right there in the middle. And another thing, too, my neighbors, their vehicles are being damaged. Like my neighbor across the street, he just had his truck vandalized, and myself. I didn't have my vehicles vandalized too. The one been busted, and the radio's been taken out, or either slashed tires. Now, I don't have a lot of friends, but still, I want somebody to respect me.
You don't have a lot of friends?
I don't need a lot of friends.
Okay.
You
seem like a friendly guy.
Yeah. I don't need a lot of friends, but what I need done is that, police been doing a good job now since that bankruptcy thing going on.
Yeah.
They need to come around a little more often and give us some tickets for the people that are governing the neighborhood, dumping garbage on the streets, and busting glasses on the street. This needs to be stopped.
I agree with you.
Because I've been having flat tires. I roll on, come back. I got to fix my flat tires because I'm not rich. I got to fix my own tires in some cases. But blowing the stop sign, I ain't going to tell
We'll pass that along. In October, I will be responsible for the police department, and I can assure you of a response. But in the meantime, we will pass it along to your precinct and see what we can do.
Yeah, I hope so. Tell them right now what's going on in the area.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So we got one last question. Go ahead.
Good evening. The first gentleman that spoke, he addressed one of my main issues, trying to keep the investors from outbidding owner occupants. And you said that that's something you'll work on, further into the process. So I hope so, because they're able to pull their money together in ways that the average citizen isn't. And I have 7 vacant properties. on my block, and they're all bought by investors.
Right.
And we're maintaining those properties, my neighbors. So
Okay. But remember the difference now. If the investor buys this house, they have to have a contract to fix it up in 30 days, and they have to have it fixed up and occupied in 6 months, or we keep their money and we take the house back. They've been able in the Wayne County auctions to buy these houses for $500 and not do a thing, which is what you're experiencing.
Exactly.
And so I may be wrong. We're going to find out together. If I'm wrong, we're going to change. I promise everybody, if I'm wrong about this, when I did this 10 years ago as prosecutor, 60% of the houses were bought by owner-occupied, 40% were bought by investors. I thought that was a pretty reasonable mix. It's harder to get a mortgage today than it was 10 years ago, so we're going to see. But if it's not working, we're going to change it until we get to where you want to be.
okay, that's good. Scrappers. You were talking about what they generally take to the scrapyard. Why are they allowed to turn in manholes for covers for the city?
They are not.
Okay.
They are not.
So
it's against the law.
All right.
Doesn't mean they're not doing it, but it's against the law.
Are there any resources for board up for properties that? No. Okay.
I got to tell you, I know people disagree with me on this, but I am not a great believer as board up as a solution. And what I saw is we had a lot of drug dealers operating out of boarded up houses. So my thing is get the house occupied or knock it down. If somebody wants to board up, I'm not against you, but we're not going to spend time boarding up. Other than the houses that we take, we'll make secure until we auction them. Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and staff. I did see the website today on the Neighbors Want It, and it is a very good website.
Oh, good.
I would just like to ask the question of who would I see tonight? I want to be a volunteer with the Detroit Land Bank.
All right. So Odell, would you Odell, raise your hand. Thank you very much, because we could use your help. And we'd love to have you come out on April 27th and help, right, Bill, on the... Open houses. Okay, Bill says I should leave that for him. All right. He knows what he's doing on the open house. He doesn't need my advice. All right. Is this one last question, or are we done? We're done. Okay, so here's the thing. How does this feel to you as a format? Is this, you want us to keep doing this? So, you know what? It doesn't bother me when you disagree with me. You have different ideas. That's how I learn. And I'm listening carefully, and I'm going to take your ideas, and you may see a month or two from now, they're going to say, he took my idea from that meeting and he put it in. And I'm going to say, yes, I did. And I'm going to take credit for it, too, even if it was yours. Before we turn it back over to your president, any closing words from the council president? All right. Councilman? All right. Thank you all very much. Bill?
Well, it's been an incredible evening tonight. Mayor Duggan, thank you very, very much. Council President Jones, Andre Spivey, thank you very much. Just a couple of things. For East English Village, for the home tour that is on the 27th, we have a planning meeting tomorrow night at St. Clair at Mackinac Drive, and that's going to be just from 7 to 8. So many people in the room here have helped before for the home tours that we've had before. So we're back at it again. Couple of differences this time. The buses will still be rolling. We've scaled it down. We're not going to do the 3 houses like we've done in the past to when we furnished and showcased the houses finished. There's just simply not enough time. But the 12 houses that the mayor's picked are outstanding properties, and they are across the board. Also, I want to remind, who's new here tonight for East English Village? Okay, in your welcome guide, there's a big section of NEZ, the tax program. No matter what you pay for the house, the NEZ program is good for 15 years. So you have a tax reduction of 18 to 35% on the property, and it rolls for 15 years. So as people buy new homes and you have new neighbors, make sure you talk about that. Also, our new welcome guide is going to be updated in the next couple of months. So please disregard the rubbish dates. Those are changing, obviously, in May. But we continue to do well. So thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Please have a safe Passover and happy Easter. Thank you.